now. So I'd like to welcome everybody to this afternoon's session, which is how to interact in the new normal, presented for us by BAPT's Director of Events, Catherine Stothart. The theme of the presentation is working from home, at the office, or hybrid working. The pandemic has changed how we work and how we interact with our colleagues. We will use Berens Interaction Styles to explore the stresses for each style in the new world of work and find practical solutions for dealing with them. Catherine is a leadership coach with Airbus and a partner in Google's Mastery Faculty of Virtual Facilitators. Her book, How to Get On with Anyone, from 2018, published by Pearson, is based on interaction styles. And she's now writing Motivation, the Ultimate Guide to Leading Your Team, which is partly based on temperament. Catherine, over to you.
Lovely. Thank you, Paula, for that very nice introduction, and welcome everybody. And thanks for coming to the more, how shall I describe it? I'm very conscious I'm up against all the youngsters in this session. So the other parallel sessions are all the young, cool, trendy influencers. So I'm very pleased that you've chosen to come here. So thank you for that. So yeah, the pandemic, I believe, has changed how we work forever, really. How we work, where we work, when we work, how much work we do, what work we do. I think literally has, the pandemic has changed all of that. So I'm going to take you through a few stats just to set the scene. And on this slide, I'm working from the top left, sort of around. So 90% of people, according to the Chartered Management Institute in the UK, 90% of people don't want to return to pre-COVID patterns of work. 51% of people, according to a survey by Microsoft and YouGov in the UK, say that they would leave if the hybrid option was removed. According to Gartner, 46% of people will be working from home, or partly from home, I should say. And in the US, 45% of US executives, when asked by PwC, said really the Great Resignation is their biggest business risk at the moment. And then pre-COVID, in the UK, only 35% of people, according to a survey, felt that work had a positive impact on their mental health. And Gallup's global State of the Workplace survey last year talked about record levels of worry, stress, anger, and sadness. So there is a lot going on, and the pandemic has changed a lot, and it's really changed what we want from our work and how we organize our working lives. And I would say that hybrid is here to stay, really. I don't think we'll be going back. I think companies will be carrying on with this hybrid working partly from home and partly in the office. And I think that leads to lots of problems. If you're a manager or a leader in an organization, I think that can lead to quite a lot of problems and issues for you, because you have to do a lot of things differently. So I just invite you to put into chat, what difficulties or problems do you think this is going to create for managers and leaders in organizations? So what sort of issues are they going to have to deal with? Yeah. Maintaining a sense of community, yeah, that sort of, you know, we're in it together, we're working together, team spirit. Carmel said maintaining engagement and motivation. Yeah, managing performance, that's going to be a big issue. Robin says they've realized the costs of going into the office, hard to be connected with staff. How do you manage conflict? Are people doing the work they should be at home? So there's trust issues, lack of interactions, being able to spot people who are struggling. Yeah, how do you choose who to promote? Yeah, thank you. That didn't take you very long, did it? To brainstorm a load of ways in which the hybrid working situation is going to be really hard for managers and leaders. So that's sort of, yeah, as you said, creating belonging and connection, engaging and motivating, sharing knowledge and collaborating. And I think somebody touched on it there, that sort of diversity, equality and inclusion. You know, how do you make sure, if you're a manager, that you're considering for promotion, for example, people who you hardly ever see in the office? How do you manage a hybrid meeting when you've got some people in the meeting physically and some people dialing in? So lots of different things. And as Claire's added in there, it's very hard on the eyes and the brain. Yeah, absolutely. So there's lots of difficulties that managers and leaders are going to be facing with this hybrid world of work. And type, as we know, gives us so many things, positive things that we can share with our colleagues, our clients, our family and friends to help us deal with lots of these issues. And I think interaction styles gives us a particular perspective on the sort of stresses of how people interact and communicate in this new world of hybrid working. And that's really what I'm going to explore in this session. So let me say a little bit about just type and interaction styles. Type is basically how your mind works, how you think, how you make decisions, how you process information, as you all well know. Interaction styles is much more about how your emotions work. So interaction styles gives us some insights into what sort of stresses and emotions people will experience when they go back to work. So I'm going to do a check. I'm going to ask Paula to run a quick poll on how much people know here about interaction styles. And I think I've got a pretty knowledgeable audience, actually. But if Paula,
I'll launch it now, yeah.
Yes, please, yeah. So are you new to or just know a little bit about interaction styles? Do you know it quite well and you're aware of your own style, or do you know it pretty well and you use it with your clients even? Good. So there's, as I thought, a lot of knowledge in the group, spread, but most people either know it quite well and are at least aware of their own interaction style, or know it pretty well and use it with their own clients. Lovely. Thanks. I think you can end that poll, Paula, please. Oh, I think you can share results as well, apparently. Great, yeah, so you can see the results there. So 44% in the middle, 33% at the top end, and just 22% are pretty new to it. Lovely, well, that's helpful to know that. So thank you for that. So we've got a nice spread. So I'm just very briefly going to say what interaction styles is all about. This is the definition I use. It's basically patterns of physical and verbal interaction displayed when interacting with others, linked to inner drives, beliefs, aims, and talents. So in other words, it's your body language, your tone of voice, how fast or slowly you speak, how fast or slowly you move, linked to what's driving your behavior when you're interacting. And I think this is a particular strength of the interaction styles model, thanks to Linda Berens, who realized this connection. And I think that's why, personally, for me, I would prefer to use this rather than DISC, for example, because I don't think there's quite that link to the inner drives in other models. So that's what interaction styles are, that link of external behavior, external energy, and the inner drives. And it's basically a way of collapsing down the 16 types of the MBTI into 4 groups of 4 that are particularly relevant to communication and conflict. So you'll see on this slide how the types, the 16 types, map to the 4 styles. And if you're not familiar with interaction styles, I would say make a note now of which which style your type correlates with. But basically, the 2 boxes at the top are the more introverted styles. The 2 boxes at the bottom are the more extroverted styles. Boxes on the left are people who tend to have quite a directing style of communication. They're comfortable telling people what to do, giving instruction, giving direction. The 2 boxes on the right are people who have a more informing preference. They like to give information, explanations, suggestions, and whatever, rather than giving direct instruction. And I should also say on this slide, you'll see the names that Linda Berens uses. So she developed the interaction styles framework. So the names she uses are in lowercase, in white. The names I use in my book are in uppercase and in the yellow color. So that's just that quick mapping. I'm not going to explain much more about the whole framework. But basically, I wanted to say that the aims of this session are to explore the likely stresses for people of each interaction style in this new world of hybrid working, and hopefully find some practical solutions to dealing with some of these stresses. And the agenda, I am going to give you a quick overview of the inner drives and stresses of each style. Then we'll have some breakout groups and then some question and discussion. So I want to ask you, before I go on any further, how, if you have been in the situation of returning to the office, or you know other people who've been returning to the office, how have people felt? If you could put any thoughts in chat, how have people felt when they've been returning to the office? Oh, a new adventure. Not very happy, nervous the first time, but then got comfortable again, but within certain limits. Some are pleased to get back. Some really enjoyed meeting again face to face. A bit stressed about clothes and getting up earlier. Yeah, I can relate to that one. Very uncomfortable as there'd been no management evidence, very little actual interaction, no updates, no communication. Yeah, which really highlights, Claire, thank you for that comment, the role of managers and leaders in this, and how, you know, they need to step up and almost do more than they perhaps are doing, or perhaps even realize that they need to do. Thank you for those comments, those inputs, everybody. So I've been doing some work with Google for the last year and a half, and they have been gradually, just this year, starting to return to the office, slightly different timescales, different parts of the world. But I was with a group a couple of weeks ago who were just going back to the office. So I asked them how they felt, and these are some of the things that they said. So very similar to what you've just said, quite mixed feelings, mixed emotions, you know, and one or two people even feeling physically sick at the thought of going back. But once they get there, settling in and so on. So why I like interaction styles is because it tells us something about the likely emotions and the likely things that are going to stress people when they're going back to the office and when they're actually, you know, in this hybrid working situation. So what I'll do now is give you a quick overview of the 4 styles before we go into a bit more discussion. So the first style is mobilizer. So this is an extroverted style with a directing way of communicating. They're comfortable giving direction, giving instruction. And for them, when there's a task or a target to achieve, they like to go straight for it. They have this inner drive to get action with results. They like to make quick decisions, and they believe it's worth the risk to go ahead and act or decide rather than doing nothing. They tend to come across as very determined. They have very determined energy, the sort of energy you might have if you were in a hurry to get somewhere. And they get stressed when nothing's being accomplished. And when they get stressed, they can become a bit impatient and a bit demanding. So what do you think they might, for these people, how might they react when they're going back to the office? What sort of thoughts and feelings might they have when they go back to the office? And in fact, rather than putting it in chat, why don't we speak? I always like people to speak. So any thoughts on that?
I think they'd be quite pleased to get back to the office. Let's just get on with it. We've been missing things. We haven't been getting things done. So let's just get back, knuckle down and get on to work again.
Definitely, yeah. Let's go for it. Let's get on with it. Yeah, I agree there, Robin. What else?
Being a mobilizer myself, I would say they would want a to know what's the plan, what's the protocol, how are we going to do this? so that we can get on with it. Because if we're trying to sort that in the middle of coming back together, that might actually frustrate a mobilizer than rather than just like either let's just work from home, or we can work in the office, or we have 3 days. Like, just say what it is and let's get on with it, not try to sort it in the middle of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And they'll be wanting to get on with things quickly and won't want this sort of big debate about, oh, how do we do this, or how do we do that, or whatever. Yeah, any other comments from anyone about how they might? Sorry, go on, Renee.
Go ahead, Camille.
No, I would, I agree with what you said, Marky. I think I would just want to know how we're going to get organized. Let's go for it.
Yeah, good.
For me, they probably would be the biggest fans of the new normal, you know, wanting to define what's the new normal, which maybe summarizes what we said before.
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so they'll have some specific sort of challenges and issues and so on. So let's have a look at the next style, the navigator style. So these are people who, when there's a task or a target to achieve, they want to work out how to get there. They want to have a course of action. They like to make thought through decisions, and they believe it's worth the effort to think ahead. They have, so that's their inner drive. That's their intention when they're communicating. They have very focused energy, a bit like the sort of energy you would have if you were revising for an exam, say. They come across as quite calm, quite reserved, serious even. And they get stressed when they don't know what's going to happen. And when they get too stressed, then they can become a little bit rigid or a little bit pedantic. So how do you think people with this interaction style might respond to the sort of hybrid working situation? What's going to stress them about the hybrid working situation?
Maybe not knowing the patterns, who's going to be in the office when, and how's it going to work, and not being clear about the plan. I don't know. Yeah,
no, absolutely. Yeah. What are the rules? What are the guidelines? How can I monitor progress? If people aren't in, how am I going to know what people are doing and whether they're, you know, meeting their deadlines and so on? So yeah, any other comments on the navigator style? Any other thoughts about that one?
Maybe worrying what's going to happen if everything's not right for the change, that kind of thing, you know, that things aren't planned or things need to be planned in order for it to work okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, just wanting to know that we've thought through all the risks. What could go wrong? Have we thought about what we might need to do? So there's some specific stresses for them in this sort of hybrid working situation. Then we've got the get things going or energizer style, which is an extroverted style, but this time with the informing preference. So they like to give information, explanations, suggest things. Their drive when there's a task or a target to achieve is to get involvement. They like to be involved themselves. They like to involve other people. They like to make collaborative decisions. They believe it's worth the energy they expend to involve everyone. And their external energy, their external appearance, if you like, is expressive, persuasive. They have engaging energy, a bit like the sort of energy that you might have if you were hosting a party. And they get stressed when either they're not involved themselves or when other people don't want to be involved. And when they get stressed, they can lose sight of the target and what they're trying to achieve, which is why there's three targets on this slide. So what issues, what stresses do you think people with this style might face when they're going back into a hybrid working situation?
I would think that they're the ones who've probably been trying to do the remote cocktail hours all along anyway. And then also that once everybody gets together, they might want to have some kind of a celebration or a moment when everybody actually comes together to like be the cheer, let's go.
Yeah, I love that idea of them being the ones that, you know, get everyone together and let's go. Yeah, absolutely. And they're probably, I don't know if it's fair to say they're probably the ones that have suffered most from working from home, but I can imagine that they might be. It's not my style, so I'm not sure, but I can imagine that they might be.
Yes, I massively missed the interactions with people. It just wasn't the same, particularly the type of work that I do is communication and facilitation and that kind of thing. But at the same time, actually, as I said in my comment just now, it wasn't great going back, and still isn't, because many of the elements that were there are not there now. The managers are right in the background, nobody's communicating anything to us, and that is really stressful, and we're being left out of decisions. So, but what's really interesting is that there are, in the places that I work, a certain number of risks that still have to be managed. So I'm very practical about, no, we still need to be having this in place, and that it's not that I expect it to go back.
Yeah, to how it was.
There's a lot of practicality involved as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The thing that strikes me is if we have hybrid working, or if there's hybrid working and people work 3 days a week, the likelihood is during those 3 days there might be a congregation of energizers, and the courses will be in on the other 2 days, and it's going to be a disaster in many ways, or potential. There's going to be potential for a lot of miscommunication, a lot of difficult interactions or lack of interactions. The blend won't necessarily be there.
That's right. That issue of, if you're letting people work 3 days in the office, 2 days from home, is it the same 3 days for everybody, or are you letting people choose? The sense I get, so I think Google are insisting on the same 3 days for everybody. And I certainly know my son works for a company in London, and I know it's similar there. They're trying to get people in on some specific days every week, so that, as a manager, you can run your team meetings those days and that sort of thing. But there's all sorts of issues. And you just mentioned chart the course there, Andy, or Navigator. And, they will want, how can they find out what's happening if they're not in, or if the other people that they need to check up with are not in? So there's, all sorts of issues there. Okay, let's go on to the fourth style. So the behind the scenes or synthesizer style. So when they have a task or a target to achieve, it can look as though they're meandering around in order to get there. So it's another introverted style, again, with the informing preference like Energizer. So they like to give information, explanation, make suggestions, etc. And when there's a task or a target to achieve for them, their drive is to get the best results. So they like to gather, they like to be consultative, they like to gather lots of information, lots of input before they come to a decision. And they believe it's worth the time that it takes to integrate all that input. So that's their inner drive, that's sort of, as I said, driving their behavior. Externally, they generally come across as very approachable. It's the sort of energy that you might have if you were listening to somebody, actually. Very patient, unassuming, friendly style tends to be their style. And they get stressed if they don't have enough inputs or enough time to gather it or enough credit for their efforts. And when they get stressed, they tend to become a bit or they come across as indecisive or unassertive. So what sort of issues do you think synthesizers might face if they're in this hybrid working situation?
I suspect they might have been some of the people that enjoyed the at home the most. That's just my assumption. I am married to a behind the scenes. He seems to have not noticed.
Yeah. Yes, I know. Thank you, Marky, for that comment. Yes. And I think your husband's INTP like me, isn't he, if I remember rightly?
Yes.
Yes. And I certainly, well, I was already working from home, but in some ways it's good. But if you're part of an organization and part of a team, it can be quite frustrating for you to, as a synthesizer. How do you gather the input and the information and what you need if people aren't in the office at the same time? I think that's one thing for them. And also, actually, how do you get credit for all that effort that you put in behind the scenes? How do you get the credit for it if you never see any of your colleagues? I think that could be another stressor for a behind the scenes synthesizer sort of person. So there's interaction styles, I think, is one framework, one way of helping us see what sort of stresses people might feel when they're in hybrid working, what sort of emotions they might be experiencing when they're having to cope with this new situation. And I see interaction styles as a tool for emotional intelligence, because it makes you self-aware. It makes you aware of your own emotions, your feelings about things. It also makes you aware of what's driving your behavior when you're interacting. And it makes you more aware of other people and what might be driving their behavior. And that enables you to manage your relationship with them. It enables you to adapt your behavior. And maybe if some of their behavior is annoying you or irritating you, it enables you to see past their behavior towards the inner drive that's motivating their behavior. And as you know, I have this view that, when we communicate, we usually have a positive intention, but the way we come across can have a negative impact. So interaction styles helps you close that gap. So I do see interaction styles very much as a tool for emotional intelligence. Are there any questions or comments so far before we were heading towards going into some breakout groups? Any thought? And you don't have to agree with me, by the way. And I'm always interested in hearing other people's experiences of their organizations. Okay, in the absence of any questions, let me go on to my next slide then. So we're going to see how this works. We may have to move one or two people around a little bit, but basically we will try to move you into am I still with you?
Yep.
Good. My screens went completely black. If that happens again, I will log out and re-enter on a different computer. This is a slight glitch I sometimes get. So we've lost your, we're no longer seeing your slides. We just see the Google. So yeah, that's okay. I've just stopped screen sharing and I'm going to try and start the screen sharing again.
Yep,
we've got the breakout groups. Okay. Yeah. So the question is, and you might need to make a note of these because when you get into breakout groups, you won't be able to see them. What is stressful for you or your clients in this new world of work? And what do you think leaders or people managers can do to meet the needs of your interaction style? So what's stressful for you and how could leaders or managers in your organization help meet the needs of your interaction style? So that's the question. I'm going to go on to the next slide in the hope that I don't get cut off before I get there. So we're going to put you into groups according to interaction style. So group 1. So if you on this slide, you can see which type maps to which style and which group. So group 1 is the in-charge mobilizer. Group 2 is the chart the course navigator. Group 3 is the get things going energizer. Group 4 is the behind the scenes synthesizer. So if you just make a note of which group you'd be going to, and then Paula can put up the breakout groups.
Yeah, so I'm just going to pause the recording. So we're recording now.
Okay, great. Thank you. Welcome back. I don't know if that's felt like a quick 10 minutes or a long 10 minutes, but hopefully you had some fun in the breakout groups. So I'm going to ask each group to just make a couple of comments on those 2 points. What's stressful for you in this new hybrid world of work, and what do you think leaders or managers could do to help alleviate your stress and particularly your interaction style related stress? So, well, I don't mind who goes first. Why don't I ask the mobilizers, group 1, to go first? So I think that was Marky, Carmel, and somebody else, forgotten.
Yvonne, yeah.
Oh, Yvonne, that's right, yeah.
I just realized that all 3 of us were ENFJs, so we're not only are we mobilizers, but we're also in the other model that Linda presented was
catalyst.
Customized. Yeah.
Yeah, catalyst.
So, yeah, so it's interesting. I think we all just talked about that. But the main thing we got to was that you need to trust your people, and the people who don't feel trusted are going to feel resentful and push back. And then there's all kinds of stuff about type and things in there, but really it was about, if you trust your people, then they can, and you have mutual respect and trust, then you can work out whatever it is that needs to be done for the organization and for the individual. But that's very much in the customizing mode, I think. I mean, it's a mobilizing, like, let's get this happening, but it's also like, you know, treat people as humans and as professionals.
Definitely. There's definitely, you know, a catalyst, that NF element there of trust and authenticity being important. So so people need to feel trusted. So managers need to do things that enable people to feel trusted. Was there anything in particular that the three of you felt was going to be particularly stressful for you or people with your interaction style in going back to the office or in hybrid working?
Yvonne, you said, because you're the one who actually does that kind of thing, you had a lot to say about that.
Yeah, so for me, so I've been doing consulting work, you know, for years. And I was doing certification training for the MBTI for the Myers-Briggs company over 4 years in Canada and the US. And I loved the in-person component. You know, for me, that was just very energizing. And of course, pandemic, home, virtual, fine. You know, I mean, I could still connect. I did learn Zoom. That was all very new for me. Now it's comfortable. But I did start working with BAPT in August. And what has been hard for me is now I'm with the team, but I don't get to see them. And I really want that connection. And so what is stressful for me is we're all busy. As everyone is, right? We're so busy, but I want to get to know everybody. And, you know, and I can tell based on the team, you know, who's willing to have that little bit of extra chit chat just to connect versus let's just get the job done. So I think if I was in the office, it would be easier for me to make those connections. Yeah, absolutely. And that is particularly stressful for people with your type and with the you know, that catalyst drive as well. Yeah. But I guess on the other side of that, though, is I wouldn't have been able to work with BAPT had I not had this opportunity to work virtually, because I wouldn't have moved to Florida. So that, you know, kind of worked out too, you know. Yeah, that's right. The technology has been fantastic for us, hasn't it, really? Because at least it's enabled us to carry on working. Yeah. Thank you, Mobiliser Group. Well, then we had a combined group of Synthesizer and Navigator, because I think, Isabel, you would have been in a group all of your own. So what were your thoughts, that group, Andy, Renee, Isabel, on, you know, what's stressful for you and people with your interaction style, and what can leaders and managers do?
I think something for me that I took away was that the human relationship and meeting face to face was something that was very important to us, and it would be a stressor if it wasn't there. That's my takeaway. I don't know if Renee or Isabel would agree, but it was even with, you know, an eye preference, it's still something that's very important to us. Yeah,
and of course you all share the feeling preference.
Yeah,
indeed. Very much. Yeah, indeed.
In fact, it was we didn't talk about the stress of going back to work. We talked about the stress of if there aren't enough getting together at work, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So having just heard what the mobilisers said, though, does it feel the same for you? That sort of, you know, not seeing the team, not feeling connected. Is it as strong as they talked about it? How does it compare with what they said?
Yeah, because we were talking also about the, you know, everything that's not said. You know, in other words, the body language, the tone, and then all the chit chat around the coffee machine and all these things that happen outside the core of the meeting. I've been in too many meetings where you just go through the agenda and then goodbye. And I'm missing all the rest, you know, the little the oil in the machine, if you wish, that for me is so important.
Yeah. And that I think you summed it up there, Renee, when you said everything that's not said, that people with your preferences particularly are particularly good at picking up on, and obviously miss if you can't get those cues. Yeah, fascinating.
And what if this new normal, how will another generation, the ones who are 15 now, will they ever know? Will they lose something quite significant that they won't even know they've missed?
Yeah. What do other people think of that?
You know, that's a concern for me. It's you know, I've got 3 sons, and they've been speaking about it. That you know, they're in their late 20s and 30s, but they've said, you know, people in their 20s, when they get face to face with people, will not necessarily know how to handle a conflict situation.
Yeah.
They won't know how to influence somebody to get something done that goes over and above just giving them information. And yeah, that, you know, that worries them, let alone worrying me. But it's
yeah. Okay. And was there anything that you felt that leaders or people managers could do to help, you know, help you get more face-to-face interaction?
I don't know if we got to that.
No.
We did.
Renee, I think you're muted.
Yeah, for me, it's encouraging, you know, some meetings where everybody has to come.
Yeah.
And because now we're in this 2-3 days in the office, 2-3 days working from home, I personally didn't ask any specific rules to be set other than that. I didn't say this team has to come that day or you have to split, because people want to be together with the whole team. Okay, but now not everybody can be in the middle of the week. Some people will need to be on Monday. Some people will need to be on Friday. You know, I want to see how it self-organizes, but that's probably not good for all the types and all the preferences or styles.
Was also mentioned about that because so much money's been saved with people not claiming expenses and things, that the management could start to say, no, let's keep doing this because it's good for the, and that they, in fact, no, this paying people to go to meetings is money well spent, was the phrase. We did get to that.
Yeah. Yeah, and certainly a lot of companies will be saving money in office space. They just don't need as much office space now. Okay, lovely. So it's still that big concern about lack of face-to-face. And what about the Energizer group? So what were your thoughts on, you know, what's stressful and what leaders can do about it?
I think, I mean, some of the things that we talked about of what we've said before, and I agree with the last group that we said we were missing certain communications, particularly those things that pick up about behaviours. We instinctively pick them up from the vibes that are going on around us, and that's very difficult when you're not in person. So, I mean, I said that meetings were difficult because I've never thought meetings are that worthwhile. I hate them. If they achieve something and you get on with it relatively quickly so you can go away and do the work, fine. I don't know if that's just me personally, but so it's now endless meetings at home with very little else. Perhaps Robin or Heidi would like to say what we talked about in solutions.
Well, what we were talking about really was just trying to define our own needs and get them understood and get them listened to, and perhaps utilizing that focus to coach other people, to help them to understand what they need and what we need and try and find the common ground there.
Yeah, I think I do. I've been thinking about this quite a bit, and I think, you know, managers and leaders, they do need to make that effort, make that time to sit down one-to-one with people and talk to them about what they need and how, as a team, you're going to organize, you know, when you have your meetings, when you have your one-to-ones, how can you make arrangements for knowledge sharing and collaboration? How can you make time for the social get-togethers, those coffee, you know, machine chats or the water cooler chats or whatever? You know, and I think I'm with Claire on, you know, meetings, you know, how can you keep your meetings short, but also get other interaction happening at other times to build that sense of collaboration and team working, and we're all working towards a common purpose, and all those sorts of things. I'm sure there's loads of really practical stuff that managers can do. What I'm slightly concerned about is, will they think of doing them?
I think also there's the other issue, and want to build upon what Andy was saying around the younger people picking up on issues. I think it goes beyond working from home and working in the office and virtually. Yeah. I think a big problem are these things. And the fact that most people are now living their lives through these things. So the leaders really do need to be putting in the right rules around the appropriate use of these things within the work environment, rather than just ignoring it.
Yeah, good point, Robin. Absolutely. I think we're all nodding to that one. I can see Marky has put a question in the chat. Have I found any correlation to which styles are most likely to want everyone back in the office all the time, or which have switched to all remote? No, I say no, as in I haven't got any sort of scientific, information or data on that. I mean, my gut feeling is that the people with the sort of STJ preferences, whether that's extroverting or introverted ones, are likely to want people back in the office, visible and concretely doing stuff, whereas the people with NFP preferences, for example, may be happier with a more fluid situation, but I haven't got any proof of any of that. But
it's very interesting, just about the younger people and lack of experience of conflict management and so on. Last week in my workspace, we had 2 major outbursts from younger folk, which were completely inappropriate towards one of the tutors, and they were really quite severe. And that, I'm not sure that would have happened before. So that's the case in point, really. It was really quite shocking.
Yeah. So that inability to know how you're coming across, manage your behavior, because you've sort of got out of practice.
Yeah. Completely.
Of doing it during this nearly 2 years now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
2 years. It's a long time, particularly if you are younger. 2 out of 20 years, if you're 20, is 10%, isn't it? So it's quite a big chunk of your life. Yeah,
it's like hiding behind a facade. It's like they can create their own persona behind this screen, and so they can be nasty, and this is for all ages, not just young people. But you create that facade and hide behind it.
Yes.
And it just lets the ugliness come out at times.
Yes. And we do know, of course, that mental health problems, particularly amongst young people in the UK, I don't know about other countries, but they do say there are far more because of lockdown, because of not being able to go to school and communicate and so on. There's a lot of, so we're going to have lots of areas where type, interaction styles, essential motivators, all these different tools that we have, emotional intelligence, we can bring some of our knowledge to help people deal with these sorts of situations, can't we? So I am conscious of the time, so let me just share my very final slide, which is basically just to say, keep in touch, as it were. So my book is based on interaction styles. My email, my website is up there. Keep in touch on LinkedIn. Follow me on Twitter. I do a fortnightly blog, which I'm going to morph into a monthly newsletter. So if you go on my website, you can sign up for the newsletter. I basically write about things to do with communication and motivation. I have a new book coming out at the end of this year, Motivation, the Ultimate Guide to Leading Your Team, as Paula mentioned at the beginning, which is based on temperament. And it's being published by Routledge at the end of the year, but it's very practical. It's aimed at managers and leaders. How can you motivate and lead your people, including in a virtual environment? And the other thing I just wanted to quickly mention is that I am running another masterclass on people who are already qualified in type. I am doing a masterclass. It's an hour and a half every week, just for 3 weeks, on how to use my approach to interaction styles with your clients. And you get a workbook to use with your clients. You get some worksheets. You get a set of the cards that I use, and so on. So that's a bit of a marketing blurb there. So I'll stop. Oh, Robin, have you got my book? That's fantastic. I can't hear what you're saying. You're muted.
Yes, I was referring to it as you were doing your session. It's all in here, everybody, and it's well worth getting, well worth a good long read. And she hasn't paid me to say that.
No, definitely not. No, I haven't. Yeah, thank you for that, Robin. So I'm happy to stay on with anyone who wants to, but I'll hand back to Paula now as host of the session. Yeah, and thank you all for coming along.
And so I'm just about I'll stop the recording in just a moment. Before I do, on behalf of the attendees, I wanted to thank you, Catherine, for a really interesting and interactive conversation, and one that's very, very topical, obviously trying to work out as we transition through this period. So I'll stop recording now.